Yeah, you're recording, so.
Hi everybody, I'm here to show you guys how to install our new product, the Rennen Ultralite Bottom Bracket. Before we go and install it, I want to show you guys one of the really awesome things about this bottom bracket is that we are the lightest bottom bracket in the world. So here is, and smallest also, this is a 95 millimeter bottom bracket. As you can see, weighs 74 grams, which beats everybody's bottom brackets by quite a bit. One of the nice features about this bottom bracket that we designed in is that it's adjustable. So the bottom bracket has these cups that have serrated edges on them with a tapered lock ring mechanism. And we use that we have special tools that we've designed and provide with the bottom bracket. And those tools help us adjust the bearing pretension, and then when you lock the taper lock ring, it expands the fingers and locks the bottom bracket in place on the bike, which is awesome. And it really helps get your Q factor way down, which has been a big push over the last few years. Currently, I believe that the tightest bottom bracket on the market, I think, is 103 millimeter, and we're down to 95. This is available in 5 sizes from 95 to 115. And I'm going to install it on my son's bike so you guys can check it out right now. So, first thing you want to do when you get the bottom bracket to install is you want to pre-install one of the cups on the side. And we provide special tools. One that engages the bottom bracket cup, and another one that engages the lock ring. You want to thread both of those together and keep it a little loose. We provide 2 colored washers. These are really just to take up space so that we could hand tighten a titanium spindle bolt. And you don't want to really crank this down too much. You just want to get it snug, and that's enough. So we're going to start with the drive side, and the drive side is indicated by a small circular cutout in the bottom bracket shell itself. So I'm going to turn the bike around. Two tools that you'll need to adjust the bottom bracket is a 36 millimeter spanner wrench. Park Tool makes a nice one. It's called the HCW-9. A lot of people have this. This is the same cog lock nut that you would use for a rear cog nut usually. So we take the bottom bracket and we begin threading it in place. Now this is the drive side, so left-hand threads tighten the bottom bracket into the assembly. Now, one thing to note is that this bottom bracket does not have flanges, and it was actually designed not to be 68 millimeters. It was designed to be 66 millimeters. So you want to thread the bottom bracket into the frame a little bit. Now, in order to tighten it in place, for this side, we're just going to leave it be where it's at. And we use the spanner wrench here and an adjustable wrench or another wrench on the other side. And there is 1 thread rotation for full locking and engagement. So what you do is you want to hold your cup position and then begin tightening. Now, the reason why we clamp this assembly together is that these are a lot of small, sensitive little parts, and it's a little awkward, to be honest. So if the bolt and washer assembly isn't here, what's going to happen is these things are going to twist out, and you're going to strip your tools out or break them even worse. So you can see I was applying a little bit of force there. You can check how tight your cup is by moving the wrench back and forth. This one's locked in place. It's not moving. So now, before I move on to the other side, when you're going to take apart the bottom bracket, when you're tightening, you could tighten this bolt on the washers with no problems. When you're trying to loosen, you need to have this bolt not really tight. It needs to have a little bit of movement so that the tapered lock ring, when you untwist it, can actually move out, or else it's not going to allow you to do that. So we have this side set, and I'm just undoing those pieces. You can see the bottom bracket here. It's set into the frame a little bit. So now we are going to turn the bike around and install the second half. So we take our second half assembly, and this is the non-drive side, so this tightens normally. Right hand threads tighten, and you want to install. Now I pushed it all the way through so that the bearing seats up against it, so we can go ahead and tighten this lock ring assembly with the cup. So I got everything in place. I use my washers. Again, the washers help us tighten the bottom bracket nicely. So now we begin. I probably should have greased the threads a little bit, but you know, we will just keep on going until we make it work. I'm going to change wrenches quickly. Just so I can get this in there a little bit better. I wonder if I may have had that taper lock ring a little tight, so I'm just gonna, yeah, I did. So that was my mistake. I didn't make sure that the taper lock ring was a little loose. It must have been expanding just a little bit, but you know, these things happen. So now, the nice thing about this is you can set the bearing pre-tension pretty easily just by threading in the bottom bracket cups themselves. So we're gonna open it up just to take a look at some things. Make sure that, so you can see that right there, we still have a little bit of movement. We need to tighten that up a little bit more just to be able to get the bearing tension correct. So we put in our bearing tension tool, put in our taper lock nut tool, and we put in our titanium spindle bolt. The Rennen Ultralite Bottom Bracket comes with titanium spindle bolts standard. We don't upcharge you for that, so that's nice. We do have a aluminum bolt option, which is in addition, because we really want the user to set the bike up with the titanium bolts to clamp the arms on, which I'll show you. But if you want to go for lightweight, then you can throw the aluminum bolts on to cut, I think, another 10 grams off the assembly weight. So here we go. We have no movement in the bottom bracket, and it's spinning pretty freely. You can adjust that a little bit if we want to just get a little nicer spin. So I'm just putting that one cup on and loosening it just a little bit. And you could really feel, these are Enduro silicon nitride bearings. So it's a really high-end bearing that will make sure that the bottom bracket spins good for a long time. So we have to throw our assembly back together again here, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the final taper lock nut tighten. We like where our bearing tension's at. And again, it's just one turn of the taper lock nut. You can check it by using the bearing pre-tension to make sure things aren't moving. That looks good. Unscrew your titanium bolt. We're done with the installation tools right now. So what's up next is your crank arms, and you've completed the installation. So we'll throw the non-drive side on. The rest of this is pretty straightforward. I think everyone knows how to install square taper crank arms. So I've used the titanium bolt to press on the bottom of the crank arm, but on my son's bike I have all these red accent lightning bolts, which is a new product that we came out with a few months ago. The aluminum version of the spindle bolts look exactly the same, so keep things consistent. We'll throw one of those on. A couple of things I should mention. This is the only bottom bracket on the market that is has helicoils for the threads. So why did we do that? You know, we're trying to make a super light bottom bracket. Why are we throwing some steel threads in there? That's so that anybody who's sketched out about stripping aluminum threads with a stainless steel helicoil, you're not going to have that kind of issue. So if there is any kind of problem, you can always have it replaced and you won't have any issues with that. So that was just one of the design features. No one else is doing it. These are aluminum spindles. They are large diameter aluminum spindles. So the spindle on the Rennen Ultralite Bottom Bracket is 20 millimeters in diameter. And a typical spindle on some of the other brands are in the range of like 16 to 17 millimeters. The Ultralite Bottom Bracket at 20 millimeters in aluminum is actually equal stiffness to a titanium bottom bracket that's in the 16 or 17 range. And, you know, weight comparison wise, it's not even close. This is by far way lighter than any titanium bottom bracket on the market. And it is also lighter than some of the aluminum bottom brackets on the market. But we have set a weight limit on this bottom bracket at 80 pounds, which also is a lot higher than some of the other ratings that are out there. And we're very confident in the design because it's using, you know, basic engineering principles, you know, going large diameter on the spindles. You know, as your rider gets older and older and moves away from square taper and they go to, you know, a DXR style crank, all of those are sitting at like 24 millimeter spindle diameter, and that's for strength and stiffness. Then you have something like the race face crank that is using a 30 millimeter spindle, and that's fully aluminum. So anybody who's, you know, a little leery about aluminum spindles, just keep in mind that there are examples out there of these things in existence. And that was installation. We set up this bike with a 110 millimeter bottom bracket. You can see it spins very, very nicely. If I wanted to adjust the chain line, I would just go ahead and thread those cups in and out, and then make sure you set your bearing tension to get your chain line exactly where you want it. But just so that I can show you guys how tight this bottom bracket gets, this is my son's old bike that I actually built up for my daughter, and that is a 95mm spindle setup, and I don't think you're going to find anything that's tighter on the market. This is the absolute smallest, the absolute lightest, and in this size range, the absolute stiffest. So that concludes the installation video. If you guys have any questions, contact me. I'm George at RennenDesignGroup.com. Phone number's on the website. Excited to see everyone at the upcoming National in Egg Harbor, and come check out. We'll have product available on hand. Little teaser for something else that we have that's also being released at the same time is the Rennen Ultralite Mini Stem. That is, this is the, let me see, this is the, we have 3 sizes, so this has removable inserts. It's an adjustable stem. We have 25mm, 27.5mm, and 30mm inserts. This is the 30mm version, and you'll see, oh, let me tear out the scale again. This weighs 44 grams. That's the biggest version of the stem. The smallest version should be a couple of grams less at 40 grams. That's a 40-gram stem. And it's comprised of a few different U-bolt pieces, and it has this little insert, and you clamp it on and tighten things down, and you're good to go for little kids. We've had them on races bikes for 4 years now. It's something that I just never really had the equipment and capability to produce a lot of the parts. But we did make prototypes quite a few years ago, and consistent use with no issues. And we hope that people are digging it. We make every part of this stem. We also make every part of the bottom bracket. The only thing we don't make are the enduro bearings, and it's all made right here in Massachusetts. So again, this is George with Rennen. Hope everyone's pumped on the new products. I'll see you guys soon.